Am I the idiot for completely cutting off my family after they filed a restraining order against my husband without consulting me? I, 33 female, have been married to my husband, 32 male, for a few months, but we've been together for 6 years. My parents had asked us to move into their home 2 years back to help them out since my dad is medically disabled. We agreed because this would allow us to save up for a house. When I was 19, my father had a brain tumor, and at the same time his mother was in the hospital, and it wasn't good. My mom spent all her time at the hospital with my grandma, so I decided to take 2 years off from college and put in a leave of absence from my job until my dad was better so I could take care of him and my brother who was younger. Fast forward, I met my now husband at work and we hit it off. From the beginning, he took it upon himself to take my father to appointments and fix things around the house for them. When we moved in, my husband fixed the house for my parents every day after working 10 hours a day. Anything they asked of him, he did. He fixed the dryer 6 times, he repaired the HVAC system. He is not an HVAC. He took his personal time to learn the basics so our heat would work and anything else they needed. So now we are married for a few months and have been looking for a home. My mother has been rude and passive-aggressive with him ever since we got married. Some backstory on my childhood. I was emotionally abused by my mom and was taught how to hate my father because he was always working. My mother always used to tell me that my dad had no time for me and to not bother him for anything. My mother once broke an easel over my head when I was 6 because I was playing Barbies with my friend and she wanted to play with my new one, and I told her she could play with any other one she wanted. My mother has always been toxic, but I was always gaslit by family and friends and it was always my fault. My brother, on the other hand, had stolen from my parents, stolen thousands and thousands of dollars from them, became addicted to hard drugs, and has threatened to beat my parents and myself multiple times. He's the golden child and can do no wrong. I have always resented my parents for this, but was always made to believe that I was being stupid, and it was my fault. My husband and I have put our own money into my parents' house to help fix it for them with no request for payment back. My parents have been ungrateful for everything we, especially my husband, have done for them, but we kept doing it because we lived there too. I recently was told by my therapist that in order to be healthy for myself and my husband, I would have to confront my parents about all the issues and trauma that I had been living with. So I do this and all of a sudden they claim my husband is brainwashing me. In their words, there was never an issue, so why am I speaking up now? I was explaining to them that my therapist wants me to work on being more healthy with my family, and that is why I chose to speak to them. My husband and I received many gifts for our wedding and both of my parents said to place them in a room no one uses. Just recently they've been complaining about the gifts and told us to figure out storage. So yesterday we bought a small shed from Sam's Club so we can place all of our things in it. This is what set my mother off. She said it was her house and we had no right to purchase it. When we tried to explain the reason for it, she started screaming at my husband, telling him he does nothing in the house and we just choose to do whatever we want to do because we are selfish. She also said she wanted us out of her house. I told her we had no place to go and that we needed time. She then charged my husband and went to punch him in the face. My father stopped her and then they called the police. When the police came, they told us that they felt sorry for us because we hadn't done anything, but that they decided to place a temporary restraining order on my husband and that they wanted me evaluated for brainwashing and Stockholm Syndrome. All of this over a freaking shed? The cops came a few hours later and said that I didn't have to leave, but that temporarily he would have to. So we packed up our things and our dog and left to a hotel. I've been getting messages from family saying that I'm in the wrong and I'm an asshole because I put my parents through hell. I've decided for my own mental health that I need to cut off all toxic family members because my husband and I don't deserve this. AITA? Edit. Hey all. I noticed my wording about the Stockholm Syndrome and brainwashing nonsense sounded like it came from the cops. I'm sorry. My parents were yelling and begging the police to evaluate me because I would never speak to them like this on my own. The police obviously didn't do anything of the sort and even told my parents that I was clearly speaking for myself and was under no duress. Comments. Comment 1. I can't wait for the mental gymnastics excuses those 3 will use on blaming Oop for that self-made. Those 3 are in. I legit Oop clapbacks with something like sorry. Can't help any of you after packing up paying for everything by myself alone when moving out. I realize I need my husband and you all put restraining order on him. So no can do on anything, not even a penny. Oh well. Go fuck yourselves. Comment 2. I'm not coming down on Up, but she seems like she's still addicted to the stress and drama of her family. She initially said she would cut her family off after she had all of her belongings out of their house, but now she's having dramatic text exchanges with her mother and promises to update if anything comes up. If you block them and go no contact, nothing should come up. But you are addicted to the chaos. It's hard to shake. Update 1. It's been 80 days since I posted it, and a lot has changed. My husband and I found a house and will be moving into our home at the end of August. I am currently low contact with my parents only because a lot of our things are in their house. I have already set up a day for the movers to come help me gather all of our belongings, and yes, my parents know we are taking our things. My parents were given no information other than we found a place of our own. My father has ignored me since the situation they caused and basically blames me for it, but then tells my mom out loud he's not mad at me when I'm there. My mother thinks all is well even though I tell her our relationship is the furthest from fine, but narcissistic parents will believe what they want. Once all of our things are out of the house, I'm cutting all contact with my parents and whoever else needs to go. My husband and I, even through this difficult situation, have gotten stronger and are living a fairly peaceful life. Therapy has been wonderful, and all the wonderful things that are coming our way, we are welcoming with open arms. One thing I realized, other than my parents being narcissists, is that I really did go through a lot of trauma throughout my life, and my parents still think they're the best parents out there. There was a moment, in the beginning of all of this, where I thought I couldn't keep going. When I came out of that place and was strong again, I spoke with my parents about it since my mom kept telling me how much they care about me still. Their response to all of this: "Oh well, that's not our fault and shit happens." They're right. Shit does happen. And it's gonna hit them hard once I am out of their lives for good. Thanks for all the kind words and advice. I thought I'd share with those, if anyone who cared to know how we are doing. Update 2. So my husband and I moved into our new home, and we are loving the freedom. When I went to my parents' house on Friday to help the movers, my brother began saying some disrespectful things to me for no reason. I was moving my stuff outside when he stopped me to tell me how I'm shit, and the whole family is so happy for me to be out of the house permanently. I took this moment to see if my mother or father would stand up for me for once. And they didn't. Therapy has been so helpful through this process, so it didn't bother me that he said it, or that they did nothing. It just makes cutting them off so much easier. My mother then texted me asking me if she and I can work on our relationship. I told her I'm not ready right now, because she still had proven that my brother and my father disrespecting me doesn't faze her. That's when the "I've done so much for you and you treat me this way well" the answer is yes, because my life is much better without their toxicity. My husband and I are so happy to have this home for ourselves and our fur baby. I just want to thank you all so much for all the support and kind words you shared. If anything with my parents comes up, I'll update, but at the moment this is the last. I hope you all have wonderful lives and just never give up. Stay strong and kick life's ass. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for refusing to reconnect with my mom after she chose to go no contact with me for over a decade? So, a little background: I'm 35 male, and my parents divorced when I was 17. My dad struggled with alcohol and drug addiction, and my mom eventually left him, which I totally understood and supported. Living with him was impossible. He wasn't violent but verbally abusive, and he spent all our money on his habits. That was the last straw for my mom. After the divorce, my dad spiraled. He nearly overdosed and ended up in the ICU. I was living with my mom at the time, but I was scared that my dad would die, so I moved back with him and my uncle's family. My mom was disappointed but let me make my choice. Losing my mom, most of his friends, going broke, nearly dying, finally got through to my dad, and he promised he would get better for me. It was hard to watch, but he actually turned things around. My uncle paid for everything: rehab, therapy, medical bills, and after about 5 years, my dad was clean and somewhat healthy again. He even apologized to my mom. And she forgave him, though she told me later it was only for my sake so that they could be civil at future events like my graduation or wedding. Over those years I kept in contact with my mom, regularly met with her. She had moved on and met a great guy, who she eventually married. She was much happier, and I was happy for her. I thought we had a pretty good relationship. That changed when I was 23. My mom asked me to come over, and she told me she was still angry and disappointed that I chose my dad over her after the divorce. She said I was ungrateful for everything she went through, putting up with my dad's shit, and then she hit me with something that still pisses me off today. She told me she could see me becoming a drunk and drug addict like my dad because I stayed close to him. I don't drink, I don't do drugs to this day, and I had no idea where that even came from. I was floored. I thought we had moved past all that, but apparently she'd been harboring resentment for years. Then, she said that she wanted to go no contact with me because being around me brought back too many bad memories of my dad. She said she had found peace and happiness, and I was a reminder of all the pain she'd been through. I didn't know what to say except okay. I later found out from a cousin on her side that her whole family was pissed at me for staying with my dad back then. And they all went no contact with me for her sake, saying that I betrayed her. I haven't seen or heard from my mom since that day. Fast forward to now, my dad passed away 2 years ago from a heart attack, a result of his years of addiction. Despite being clean for over a decade, he had lingering medical issues. I recently got married, and my wife posted some pictures from the wedding on Facebook. My wife said a woman claiming to be a cousin contacted her. I looked at the message and it was cousin from my mom's side, asking if it was really me in the pictures with my full name. I told my wife to ignore it, but then I got a call from my uncle later that same day saying that my mom showed up at his house. For context, the house where my uncle lives currently used to be the home where I grew up with my parents. My uncle said she asked him to arrange a meeting between us, saying she wants to apologize to me face to face. He told me he can set it up if I want. Honestly, after all these years, I feel nothing for her except maybe slight resentment for thinking that I would turn out as an addict. I was going to say no right away, but my wife thinks that's a shitty thing to do and I should at least hear her out, let her apologize, and then go back to never seeing her again if I want. She says despite what she did shield me from most of Dad's addictions growing up. Now I am having second thoughts. AITA, if I refuse to meet her? Comments. Comment 1. Not the idiot. You have to go with your gut. It has been 10 years, and she has discovered that you didn't become an addict and instead have created a happy life. You're married, which means there could be grandkids in the future. Are you happy without her? If you've moved on without that side of the family, if you've created your own happy family, then why rock that boat? Your wife may not be able to let it go though. And if you turn your mother down, you're going to have a lot of flying monkeys contacting you and your wife to tell you how cruel you're being. I couldn't deal with that, personally. I don't do drama. She made a choice, and you've respected it. I'd say no and be ready with the block feature. Comment 2. Even though Oop is happy with his new family, and somehow find his closure, his mother's still the same selfish, vile person. She admitted to spread lies about her own son to her family to make them side with her, but never says what lies she told and didn't tell the truth to them. So she's not regretful as she claims. Also, if you think about it, she reappeared on Oop's life just to abandon him again. I think she decides to go NC again with Oop because she's scared of facing the consequences of her actions. If Oop reapers in her life, her extended family will know what she did to him. Update. First, I want to talk about this. A few of you said I abandoned my mom when I went to live with Dad. It looks that way when I think about it now, however, I feel I never abandoned her in any way. I loved my mom dearly and I loved my dad too. When she told me she was divorcing Dad, I helped her pack. I left with her as I thought at the time Dad was a lost cause. I went back about 7 months after the divorce when my dad was fighting for his life. That was when he promised me he would change and get help. I chose to stay with Dad after getting permission from Mom. As I said in my first post, she was disappointed but agreed Dad needed me. Even after I chose to stay with my dad and uncle, I always stayed in contact with her. My mom and dad lived about 20 minutes apart, and I made sure to see my mom regularly 4 to 5 times a week at least. I would talk to her every day too. We went on trips together, ate meals together, and hung out as much as we could. When she moved in with her new husband, who I will call John, she always included me in her new family's life. John was good to me too. For all that time there was not even one inclination of the resentment Mom had for me when she blindsided me with the decision to go no contact. I was completely shocked. She never expressed any anger or frustrations toward me. We never argued, and she never showed she was upset about my relationship with my dad, until that day. After she blocked me from everyone, I tried for a couple of years to reconnect but eventually gave up when I moved out of the city. A lot of you told me to meet her for closure, while others said not to bother. After thinking about it for a while, I had decided to meet her, and was going to tell my uncle to set up a meeting with her, but before I could tell him, my uncle called me again, 3 days after my mom showed up at his house. He told me she came by again and gave him a letter for me, and she apologized for bothering him, and that she wouldn't be coming by again, and she didn't want to raise my hopes unnecessarily, and hoped I would understand after I read the letter. Uncle said she sounded very sincere. I asked my uncle to send me pictures of the letter. It's not that long and I'll summarize the important bits. The letter was a mix of apologies and well wishes. She wrote she was sorry for how she treated me back then, especially for saying I'd turn out like my dad. She said she was going through some relationship issues with John, and then seeing Dad getting better made her feel bitter because Dad never tried for her. She thought her second marriage was failing and everyone around her was happy while she was miserable. She said she listened to some bad advice and she regrets it. She said she regrets taking her anger all on me when she should have gotten help. She said she made up lies to her side of the family so that they side with her. I do not know these lies. Is this what she only wrote? She said she got help couple of years after she went no contact but was too ashamed to reach out to me. She saw the wedding pictures and is happy for me, wishing me the best in my life. She wrote that while she initially wanted to meet me, after some reflection and with her family's advice she realized it was for selfish reasons, and for her own sake only. She apologized again and said it's better if we keep things the way they are. She ended the letter by saying she's happy, and she doesn't want to drag up the past. She apologizes once more, and wrote she won't contact me again for both our sakes and asked me not to contact her as well, and wished me and my wife well. So there's that. Honestly, it's probably the best outcome, and I'm at peace with it. I am happy with my life and I am glad Mom is happy with her life. Like she asked, I am not going to contact her, but I will keep my door open if she wants to meet in the future. I also realized how stupid I was to hold on to my resentment of her comment about me becoming an addict. I also want to address the comments that said my wife was overstepping. My wife knows all about my past and about my mom. She is a kind soul who sees the best in people. Like I said in a comment in my first post, she was just looking out for me. She wanted me to have no regrets. She did apologize for saying it would be shitty not to meet Mom, but it's all good. We both know each other's boundaries, we communicate well. Right now we're planning our honeymoon, and life is good. Thanks for all the supportive messages and comments, truly appreciate it. Bye.